Come home from drinking with my buddies, buzzed and getting tired. See my wife walking to the bedroom. It's time for bed for her too. Laying in bed with wife. We're talking in the dark as is our nightly routine. She leaves to use the restroom. Comes back about 1 minute later, closes and locks the door as usual, lays down in bed again. She likes to sleep with her arm over me and her head in my neck. Attempt to talk to her, no response. Assume she's fallen asleep. Start nodding off, brain thinking of stupid shit like elephants doing backflips. Snap out of my sleep, bedroom doorknob is jiggling. Look at the door and hear my wife on the other side say, "Stop playing, let me in." Bricks.gif. Look down at my sleeping wife. Can barely make out anything because of the dark. Slip out from under her and turn on the light. Look back at her and no one's there. Look around the room. Wife starts getting pissed and demanding I let her in. Go to open the door. Pitch black in the hallway. No one's there. More bricks.gif. Suddenly sober up and realize that my wife is working a double shift. Drown in bricks I shat.gif. It's been many years since I've told anyone about my experience. I normally keep it to myself, as anyone I tell it to thinks I'm crazy. I don't blame them either. If someone told me this story, I would think they were a lunatic. Be me, just got out of high school. I wanted to do something fun. Decide that I'll kayak through the Florida Everglades, by myself. My mom hates the idea, my dad thinks I'll be fine. I'd been camping, backpacking, and kayaking for about 7 years by then, so I was fairly experienced in bushcraft. Ergo, like my dad, I thought I would be fine. Boy, was I wrong. As a precaution, my dad gives me my great-grandfather's old groundhog hunting rifle. My face when my great-grandfather's groundhog rifle is a M1903 Springfield. Regardless, I grab my shit and rush off into the unknown. I decide to kayak around the Thousand Island portion of the Everglades. I pushed off at a small island known as Chokolosky, and I made my way into the wild. I was ecstatic. Finally, I get to enjoy my favorite hobby with no one around to bother me. I camp at a small dinky campground known as Mormon Key. Pick related. It was a 10-plus mile kayaking trip to get there, plus part of that was just navigating through the mangroves. Needless to say, I was tired as fuck. Make camp, cook dinner, watch the sunset, and go to sleep. I wake up to howling in the distance. Sounds like a wolf. Problem is, wolves have been extinct in the Everglades since like 1910. Kinda weirded out, but there is a body of water between me and the howling, so I don't really dwell on it. I wake up, make a quick breakfast, and continue heading south on my kayak. End up going down the Lossman's River. See red circle and pick. Find a place down the river to camp. Set up camp. Eat and sleep. That would be my last comfortable night of sleep for the rest of the trip, and maybe the rest of my life. Wake up the next day refreshed, and head further down the river. Eventually hit the mainland. See blue circle on pick. I walk about 1.5 miles east before I decide to turn back. That was a mistake. I tripped, fell, hit my head, and knocked myself out. Fuck me. I wake up about 2 hours later. I pick myself up, orient myself, and start heading back towards the kayak. Get to where the kayak was, and it was gone. The rope is still tied to a mangrove, but the middle is chewed through. It finally hits me. The kayak is fucking gone. My tent, most of my food, water, other gear, and most importantly, my transportation is gone. I decide to get to dry land as I don't want to be in the mangroves at night. I get to dry land, eat a granola bar, and decide to head northeast in the morning to try and get help. I fall asleep with my head on my pack and next to a fire. I wake up only 4 hours later to the noise of howling. Wolf howling. Once again baffled, seeing as they should be extinct around here, I shine my light into the bush. I see an absolutely gargantuan wolf, bigger than I've ever seen. Think the size of a rhinoceros. I flip the fuck out and add what little dry wood I have to the fire. I spend the night clutching my rifle next to a dying fire. They eventually fuck off, but I don't let my guard down. Around sunrise, I immediately head northeast. I'm tired, hungry, thirsty, and just want to get help. I'm slowly trudging through knee-high water. I consider ditching the rifle to get rid of the weight, but then I remember those wolves. I keep going on and on, mindlessly, checking every 10 or so minutes to make sure I'm on course. In the middle of the mangroves is a small dry area. I figure that I could rest here for a short while. I walk into the clearing and I see a structure. It's a pyramid. In the fucking Everglades? Think pick related, but smaller. I'm dumbfounded at what a pyramid would be doing this far out here. I didn't think the local tribes ever got this advanced. I needed to keep moving, but I just found a hidden pyramid in the middle of the Everglades. Archaeologists and historians would kill to find this. I figure I need to stop and at least look at the place. I climb up to the top, and there's a pit, just a dark pit. Out of the pit, I can hear something faint. I get down on all fours so I can hear better. I realize that there's wailing coming from the pit. Grievous, painful wailing. I promptly get up and try to get the fuck out of there. In a rush, I trip. See a pattern? After tripping, the wailing turns to straight up screaming. It sounds like a banshee. I'm convinced that anyone within 10 miles could have heard that. It was deafening. I started hurrying back down when I see those damn dogs. There was a pack of 5 of them, all completely huge. I drop my pack and climb up a cypress tree. I fire all 5 of my rounds into the biggest fucker there. He bleeds out under the tree while the screaming from the pyramid is just getting louder and louder. The pack drags away the dead dog into the mangroves. I take my opportunity, jump down, and start booking it northeast. I left my pack to save weight, and I'm going through the mangroves as fast as I possibly can. I even throw aside the rifle, as I have no ammo for it. It's just dead weight. Eventually, after an hour, I can't hear the screaming anymore. I'm dehydrated as fucking hungry, but I keep moving forward. I find myself on a road, loop road, scenic drive with a bunch of police cars. They hesitate when they see me because, well, I look like I've been through hell and back. They get me water and a granola bar and tell me to sit tight for an ambulance. When I asked them how they knew to find me, they said some guy on the road called in about hearing incessant shooting a couple of hours prior, and they'd been searching since. I get to the hospital and the police interrogate me. I hesitate and tell them that I got lost and fired those shots at an alligator. They accept it and leave me alone. My family comes up in hysterics to see me. I confide in my dad about what actually happened. Naturally, he doesn't believe me, and he said that the dehydration must have made me hallucinate it. I go home and keep bringing it up. Eventually, he has me admitted to a psychiatrist for delusions and hallucinations. Gee, thanks, Dad. I've brought the story up to 2 different people, and both had the same response. I'm never going back to that place again, and I just want to forget about all of this, but I felt like I needed to tell someone. I don't care if you believe me or not, as no one else does. I just needed to get it out. I don't know what I found out there, and it'll probably stay that way. Good night, X. I used to work in the gas industry as a geologist. From 2007 to 2009, I was on contract with a Russian company called Northgas, back when industrial relations with the UK were still fairly cordial. There were lots of potential gas sites in this Siberian region far up north, and I used to go around potential sites with company borehole engineers, usually in groups of 2 to 3. Anyway, I was at one site in northern Siberia with a German engineer in late October of 2008. Took ages to get to and completely devoid of human habitation, but really beautiful taiga. Endless forests on the drive up there.
You drove a van through the taiga?
Yeah, I'm not a car nut, but it was some modified Jeep that the engineer guy would just not shut the fuck up about the whole drive up from Noyabrisk. Anyway, the site we went to survey was fairly typical of what you would expect in the industry at these sorts of locations. Thin topsoil giving way to permeable siltstone. Excellent locations for surveying. Now to the story. We came to a location where satellite imagery was suggesting that permafrost was retreating. It still fucking snows and ices over, of course, but the key point is that it's not entirely frozen over. You can install stuff during the summer months, get gas production up. It was a pretty boring landscape, though. Very thin topsoil giving way rapidly to permeable siltstone. Lots of these natural holes all over the place, too. Permafrost plugs that had melted and left 20 to 30 meter deep holes dotted all over the place. We decided to stay a few weeks and do some test surveys. First week was completely fine, got some good locations, things progressing smoothly. By the end of that week, though, things were getting a little weird. Every time I would go out with the spectrometer after that first week, I'd occasionally hear some noises from the holes. I was never near them because while you get a lot of gas coming off these things, they're not terribly good for industrial drilling. It was faint, just on the border of hearing. I never knew how to describe those noises until a few years later when someone took me out to a jazz bar and some guy was playing a violin-like instrument that made a drone noise like foom. Disconcerting. Makes your hair stand up. My colleague would notice this too. Disconcerting, as in this job you're not really working together but apart. So 2 of us were hearing stuff out there. We were both rational people, at the time, for me at least, so we put it down to cave noises. Laugh, forget it. About 10 days into the survey, it started happening at night. Again, faint, but really ominous. That drone noise. We used to sleep in the back of the van we brought, but even through those doors we heard it. Again, stop being stupid. It's just cave noises, laugh, have a few beers, go to sleep. It got worse from there. The day after, I found some slime stuff around one of the permafrost boreholes. Yeah, you get lichens and mosses around these things, not an issue, but this was like petroleum jelly, that really viscous stuff. I touched it and immediately regretted it. It felt a lot like pork belly fat. It was warm too, which was really disturbing, considering it was -5 degrees Celsius for you Americans during the day out there. Yes, and also for you Americans, that would be 23 degrees Fahrenheit. Bring round the German engineer to take a look, and he looks troubled. For the rest of the day, I was constantly on edge too. I kept looking back at the borehole just to check, I kept saying to myself. Things got worse at night. That drone noise got a lot worse, but it felt, and I know it's a shit way of putting it, like it wasn't from below, but above, on the surface. My German engineer tried to laugh it off, but I could tell he was seriously disturbed by it. Just that low boom. Eventually we get to sleep. God knows how many hours later, though, we wake up together because something is definitely attempting to open the door handle to the passenger side of the van. Click, click, click. And now that drone is right f***ing outside, and it sounds a lot like gurgling. At this point, we both freak the fuck out and scream like a pair of little girls. It stops. We don't sleep the rest of the night, and it doesn't come back. The next day, as soon as we make it to 9 a.m., we cautiously open the doors. The entire back door is covered in this pork fat shit. The place reeks of something rotten too. Passenger door just smeared in this stuff. But the thing that made us immediately go, fuck it, we're leaving, was the passenger window, which was also smeared in the gunk, had an outline on it. Like something had pressed its skull into the fat stuff and left an outline. It was unmistakable, some elongated human skull with no eye orbitals. Jelly stuff was all over the area around us too, and a fucking course led all the way to that borehole. We got out of there very, very fast after that, but as we were packing, that drone shit started again from the hole, and it was loud. It was guttural at this point. Whatever the shit was making, it was down there, and close too. German guy went pretty nuts after that, just hopped in, immediately started going. Equipment that was still out for methane measurements just left. Didn't stop driving for the next 14 hours. I pretty much ditched my job soon after. I had no desire to be left like that again in the middle of places like that. German guy, never heard from him again. He never talked to me about it anyway.
Nice story. Thanks for posting.
Thanks, I suppose. I guess distance from that event makes it sound pretty prosaic. Spooky noises, ooh, slime, ooh. During that night, though, I was convinced I was going to die. You know how you can just know when someone or something like an animal is nice, curious, or is just out there to fuck you up? I knew instinctively that whatever wanted in didn't want to crack open a beer and ask us about geology, if you get my drift. Anyway, I spent a long time after I'd calmed down about it, which took a few months in fact, to think of a rational reason for this. Every time though, I kept butting up against the unexplainable. Sure, drone could be cave noises, but the warm slime stuff? The guttural noise? Around 2012, I got a lot into reading about frozen mammoths and the worry about viruses from the taiga that they were expecting because of the climate change. And at that point, I went full X and said, fuck it, frozen monster. Be me a month ago, chilling with 2-month-old niece while bro and his GF are at the store. Alone in their new house, watching baby be cute and stuff. Notice she's staring at something moving above my head. Following it with her eyes, clearly focused on whatever it is. Look above my head. Obviously, nothing's there besides the back of a couch and a wall. Look back down. She's staring down the hallway, smiling. Sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach as I look down the hall. Swear on whatever god you believe in that I saw a hand with elongated fingers slide behind the door. Jump the fuck up. Baby in arms, obviously. Who the fuck's there? You trying to die, boy? Southern boy here. Stand there looking down hallway. Niece is giggling looking down hallway. Backing away from the couch and entrance to hallway. I got a gun. Lie. Lil man. Don't do anything that'll get your ass killed. Hear rustling in the back room. Just as I'm about to walk out of the front door, brother and girlfriend walk back in. Say, someone's in your fucking house. And hand her the baby. Me and brother basically sprint down the hallway and kick open the door at the end of the hall. Clothes and random shit thrown everywhere. Nothing stolen whatsoever. $1,000 laptop untouched on the bed. Room was clean not an hour before when I got to their house. Fuck all that shit. Hate being with the baby alone now. And that's the first time anything unexplained has scared the living shit out of me. Have this dream. In a factory. Typical wacky dream shit going on. Going through the back door of the factory. Walk out into a sort of Disney cartoon. A bit like on Who Framed Roger Rabbit when Valiant is in Toontown. Don't like it. Has this weird sort of opera/choir kind of music in the background, but it's really foreboding and eerie. Whole place feels foreboding and eerie. Start panicking. See phone booth. Use phone booth. Call myself to come rescue myself. Wake up sweating. Time to get up anyway. Go downstairs. See I have a message on answering machine. Play message. It's the same music from the dream and someone talking, but you can't make out what's being said. Message was received just before I woke up. Maybe I called my house phone with my mobile while I was sleeping, like some kind of muscle memory thing. Although that wouldn't explain the background music. Remember my mobile was downstairs charging the whole night anyway. Link related, it's the voicemail. I'm not trying that link, because you never know. TLDR, I called myself from a dream, I think. Be me, 14, in the woods to get away from bullshit. Find old tobacco barn to stay in overnight. Get fire going, sleeping kit set up. Sun starts going down, secure the 2 doors as best I can. Settle down, bank fire, fall asleep. Wake up a few hours later to the sound of scrabbling across the roof. Figure it's an animal, so get up and get the fire going again. Fire slowly starts building, scrabbling stops. Voices start. Sounds like 3 tinny voices whispering to each other. Start to get creeped out. Check to make sure the doors are still secure and add a few more things in front of them, bricks and loose timbers. Voices continue for a little bit, then stop. Scrabbling starts back up, breaking off in 3 directions. Pull out shitty pocket knife. Sit with back in most secure corner after adding some more fuel to the fire. Every now and then something gets thrown at the side of the barn. Sounds like rocks or large pieces of wood. Eventually, sun starts slowly coming up. Throwing slows, then stops. Wait for about 4 hours after sun comes up. Pack up stuff, make sure the fire is out, then slip out as quietly as possible. Hear movement in the trees a few dozen meters behind me the whole way home. Get in and promptly pass out. Tell neighbors up the road a few days later about it. Their response? Oh yeah, sounds like the wood elves. Lucky that's all they did. Be me in the early days of Tinder. Have a thing for goth/scene/emo girls, so swipe right on this super goth chick. She swipes right too when we start messaging, and she invites me to come chill. Hype about getting some, I grab a condom and head to this chick's house. House is super small, cracked siding everywhere, and the carport has no roof. Thinking about saying fuck it when she opens the door and motions for me to come in. Decide fuck it and get out of my car and follow her in. Walking in the house, and it's like I'm transported back to 1982 with the exception of a brand new TV. Probably stolen. Not a light in the house is on, but there are literally 100 candles lit in this tiny 3-room house. Weird, creepy little statues everywhere. The centerpiece was this massive upside-down crucifix. Literally floor to ceiling, and it looked like it was created with railroad ties. Jesus was made of wrought iron and still had the lance of Longus in his side. Be Catholic, so I'm a bit unnerved by that. Thinking with my dick though, so just kind of brush it off. The room suddenly drops like 20 degrees and her grandma comes in from another room. Real little frail woman with big thick rimmed glasses, but you couldn't see her eyes at all, just dark sunken in voids. Figure she just came in the back door or something. I went to stand up to shake her hand, but before I could she firmly insisted I remain seated. Make some basic small talk, and I try to make her laugh so she would be cool with me piping her granddaughter. I swear, her expression did not change once, and when she talked, her mouth didn't seem to match up, kind of like a badly dubbed over cartoon. She cuts me off mid-sentence and says she'll let us get to it, and she disappears into the back room. Still thinking with my dick, so I snuggle her up. The second I touched her, I got this weird uneasy feeling and every hair on my neck stood up. I guess she noticed and took it as I was into her and started trying to shove her tongue down my throat. We get naked and I start plowing her on the couch. Something keeps moving and catching my eye on the other side of the room. I was worried that it was some sick jacking it in the corner. I didn't want to tip him off if he was there, so I tried to be discreet about it until I was sure. Rolled this bitch over and noticed something on her back for the first time. She had a massive, super detailed sacrificial tattoo of a skeletal ram's head on her back. There was a pentagram on its forehead and it had weird symbols around it. She asks what's wrong, and thinking fast, I tell her the condom broke, but I think I've got another. Get up and start rummaging through my pants, looking for a condom. My plan was to act like I had to run out to the car to get one and just bounce. Gotta figure out if I've gotta fight a crackhead perv first, so I flip on the light switch by the door. Right as I do, she screams no, so loud it made my ears ring. In the far darkest corner of the room was a dark shape of a man. It was at least 7 feet tall, and its limbs looked sharp and jagged, if that makes sense. It was only in the light for a second before the light bulb blew up. With only my jeans in my hand, I grabbed for the doorknob when something hit me in the chest and knocks me down. The girl is on the couch, still screaming her lungs out. Stagger up and lunge to the door to rip it open and fall through the screen door. Pick myself up, but I'm having a hard time breathing and my chest feels like it's on fire. Managed to get to my car butt-ass naked with my jeans in my hand. Realize that it's my metal scapular that's burning me. Felt like someone held a lighter on till the metal was hot and just stabbed it into my chest. Frantically dig my keys out of my jeans and ram them into the ignition and tear out of that neighborhood. Said the prayer to St. Michael the whole way home. By the time I got back to my apartment, my metal was cold to the touch. Stayed up for 3 days straight, terrified in my apartment. I didn't talk to anyone, didn't go to class, and I don't even remember eating. All 3 days are really a blur to me, and it's really difficult to remember them, or even the ordeal at that skank's house. Be me. Be a janitor at my local mall by day. Be a necromancer by night. Studied necromancy in secret for years. Basically, my job consists of driving around Zamboni and mopping restrooms at the mall. At home, I read dark magic books in PDF and post on X and practice the dark arts. One day, found a dead in one of the toilets at the mall. Blood everywhere. Seems that someone did not want to have a baby or something. Is maybe 4 to 5 months old. Cleaned the room. Placed the lifeless inside a black plastic bag. Go home. Practice some spells on it. Nothing. Decide to implant a lost soul into it. Somehow, I created an imp. Ugly looking, but does not attack me. The imp looks hungry. Lock it in the basement. Imp feed on rats and mice for the first few nights. Hide the imp inside a metal toolbox. Get a side gig as an exterminator. Coworker mentioned rats in her attic. Go to her house and leave the toolbox with the imp in overnight. Her rat problem got resolved. Place my imp back into the toolbox. Left the toolbox in the back of my truck. Stopped to refuel at a gas station. Go inside and wait in line to pay for gas. When I came back, realized someone stole my toolbox. My face when someone out there has my rat-eating imp. Be almost 22 me. For some reason, I was very worried about dying before my 22nd birthday. It got to the point that I was being extra careful about whatever I do to try and prevent my death. 5 days before my birthday, I go to work early and wait in the car park. Some old dude approaches my car. Gestures to me to lower my car window. I do just that. For some reason, my anxiety levels are not raised. He tells me that next Saturday, it's his birthday. What the JPEG? My birthday is next Saturday too. Guy starts walking away. I ask him how old he is, and he says over 70. Guy wanders towards some residential blocks not far away and goes around a corner. The fear that I had of losing my life before my 22nd is suddenly gone. Never see that guy again. I moved to get a better job a few weeks later. 33 now and doing well. Even had a very mild case of this 2019 bat flu. Was he some sort of guardian angel who was sent to calm me down and tell me that I was going to live till at least 70? Would I have ended up killing myself through some sort of weird way thanks to being overly cautious? I mean, that would have been ironic, and it has happened to others. Another more rational explanation could be that I may have made a comment about my death fears to some colleague and he or she sent the guy to somehow comfort me, or I imagined the whole thing. Work-related stress can really fuck you up. They did not have any CCTV cameras where I worked at the time, so there was no way of checking if the guy was real. 5 years old, being raised by a single, working mom. She doesn't bother with the kindergarten shit. Instead, an old lady who lives in the same apartment building makes my breakfast and watches over me until her grandkids are back from school. They come back before my mom does, which means that for about 2 to 3 hours I am home alone. One day, during that window of time, I get a phone call. Some man I don't know asks if my parents are home, and I tell him I'm alone. Back in the day, we got a lot of calls from people who dialed the wrong number, so this wasn't unusual to me. Man doesn't hang up though, and he starts chatting with me. I'm bored as fuck, so I'm glad for the company. Pretty much tell him everything, that I don't have a dad, that there's a lady who watches over me in the morning but leaves at noon, that I'm alone until 15 hours, so I get bored and lonely a lot, etc. He tells me that he's a college student and that he moved away from his parents, so he gets lonely too. Says he'll call me again at the same time tomorrow so we can keep each other company. He does call, and this turns into a ritual. Normally we'd just chat about whatever insane bullshit comes across a 5-year-old's mind, but sometimes he'd make up stories for me. I only vaguely remember one of them, which was about a very good boy who ended up in a world where all the rules were the opposite, so he was suddenly considered bad. This goes on for a long time, for 2 months maybe. I think I told my mother I had a new friend, but she dismissed it. Anyway, the time for my 6th birthday comes, and I'm super excited to tell him about the party I'm gonna have and all the gifts I'm gonna get. He says that since we're friends, he should send me a gift too, and asks for my address, saying he'll mail me something. Being a greedy little shit, I tell him. He doesn't call again, and my birthday comes and goes, and I get no gift in the mail. I remember being very hurt by this, thinking he forgot about me. About a month or so after he stopped calling, I get a ring at my door as soon as the woman who watched over me left. My mother taught me not to let anyone into the apartment when I'm alone and to just ignore the doorbell, so I did. After a while, the ringing stopped and I heard a familiar voice calling out my name. "Anon, please, I know you're in there. I've got your gift." I tell him that I'm not allowed to let him in and ask him why he didn't send it by the post like he said he would. He explained that the gift was too big to be sent by post, so he needed to come over and give it to me in person. He's pleading that I let him in, says he's my friend. I'm feeling very uncomfortable at this point, though at the time I wasn't quite sure why. Still, being curious about the gift as well as how my friend looks, I looked through the peephole. He didn't look like how I imagined him at all. I can't say he was ugly, but he looked off. Tall, skinny, acne, very baby-faced, which didn't seem to match his deep voice at all. He looked almost sickly. I immediately noticed that he was empty-handed and that there was no gift around. I still vividly remember the cold, sick, empty feeling in my gut when I realized that something is extremely wrong and that I've made a terrible mistake. I immediately start to bawl and plead that he goes away. I don't know what I thought he was going to do, but I knew that it isn't good. He tried to comfort me while still pleading to be let inside, and then he started fake crying, saying that I must hate him. I almost said that I didn't when he started trying to get the door open. The door was locked, but I was still completely petrified. I tried to block it with a chair like I saw in cartoons, but I couldn't do it. My brain went to autopilot and I screamed, "I'm calling the police!" That made him stop, and he also immediately left. I was extremely shaken, but also ashamed. I knew I fucked up, so I didn't tell anyone about what happened. Instead, I insisted that I want to go with the lady who was watching over me and stay at her place until my mom gets home. Soon enough, I started going to school, and for a while I would stay there to do my homework instead of going home immediately after class, because I didn't want to be alone there. I don't know for sure if he ever called again, but we did get a couple of silent calls here and there. I don't know if it was him, but I feel that it was. Okay, that's gonna do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I think there were some pretty decent stories in here. I don't think I've ever heard that Tinder one before, and I really liked it. Thought it was pretty original and interesting. But I gotta go get a sandwich now because it's dinner time. Bye-bye. Yeah, you get lichens and mosses around these things. Not an issue. It's not lichen, you idiot. I pushed off at a small island known as I figured that